Have you ever felt like you're pressing the gas pedal in life, but your wheels just keep spinning in the mud? You're moving, you're trying, you're pushing, but somehow you're not getting anywhere. That's not because you're broken. It's because you're stuck. And here's the truth. Feeling stuck doesn't mean you failed. It means you've outgrown your current state. It means your mind, your identity, and your actions are no longer in alignment with where your soul wants to go. Most people wait for motivation to come before they move. But the secret? Movement creates motivation. Action creates clarity. When you take control of your state, your focus, and your belief system, you break free from the invisible chains holding you back. Today, we're not going to just talk about why you're stuck. We're going to destroy the walls that keep you trapped. Because the life you want isn't waiting for you. It's waiting for you to wake up. So if you've ever whispered to yourself, I know I'm meant for more, this is your wake-up call, let's fix it right now. You can't move forward when you keep hitting replay on the same mental movie. Every time you relive that failure, that rejection, that moment when things didn't go as planned, you reinforce the identity of someone who's trapped by the past. You start believing the story that says, this is just who I am. But that's a lie your mind tells to protect you from pain. The truth is, you're not stuck because life is unfair. You're stuck because your mind is addicted to the familiar. It's easier to repeat a painful pattern you understand than to face the uncertainty of something new. Men and women process this loop differently, but both fall into the same trap. Men tend to measure progress through achievement and control. When things don't move, when they feel powerless, they internalize it as failure. Their identity gets tangled in the results. They believe if they're not producing, they're not enough. Women, on the other hand, often attach emotion to meaning. They feel deeply, connect experiences, and carry them like emotional fingerprints. When they feel stuck, it's not just about results, it's about feeling unseen, unheard, or disconnected from purpose. Yet both are replaying the same internal script, I'm not where I should be. The loop feeds on emotion. The more you feel the pain, the more your brain searches for evidence to confirm it. You remember every time you fell short, every person who doubted you, every dream you delayed, and before you know it, you've built a cage made of memories. But that cage doesn't exist outside of you. It exists because your nervous system has learned to equate familiarity with safety, even when that familiarity is killing your growth. You can't rewrite your life by living inside yesterday's feelings. You've got to step into the unknown and teach your body that uncertainty isn't danger, it's potential. Every breakthrough begins with emotional interruption. You can't just think your way out of being stuck. You've got to disrupt the pattern that keeps you there. That's why movement, sound, breath, and action are so powerful. When you change your physiology, you change your psychology. When you shift your focus from what's missing to what's possible, your brain begins to follow. You start creating new neural pathways that tell a different story, one where you're not the victim of your past, but the architect of your future. It doesn't matter if you're a man trying to reclaim your drive or a woman trying to rediscover your worth. The process is the same. Stop negotiating with your limitations. Stop justifying your stagnation. Your brain listens to every word you say, every image you visualize, every belief you reinforce. If you keep telling yourself that nothing ever changes, it won't. If you start telling yourself that growth is who you are, the loop begins to break. And the moment you catch yourself repeating that old story, pause, breathe, and rewrite it in real time. Because the first step to fixing what's stuck in your life is refusing to live in yesterday's narrative. Before you change your strategy, you must change your state. Every breakthrough in your life, every time you've gone from feeling powerless to unstoppable, didn't start with a new plan. It started with a shift in energy. When you're in a low state, no strategy in the world will work because your mind can't see clearly through the fog of fear, doubt, or frustration. But when your energy is elevated, when your emotions are charged with certainty, courage, and hunger, you could have the same tools, the same situation, and suddenly it all changes. Because it's not the plan that drives success, it's the person executing it. Most people try to fix their lives with logic. They think if they can just find the perfect plan, the right system, or the next hack, everything will finally click. But strategy is powerless without the emotional fuel to drive it. A great strategy in the hands of a tired, fearful person will fail. A mediocre strategy in the hands of someone with relentless energy will find a way to win. This is why two people can face the same challenge, and one breaks while the other breaks through. The difference isn't knowledge, it's state. Your emotional state determines your decisions, and your decisions shape your destiny. Men often confuse low energy with failure. When they lose momentum, they start questioning their worth, their ability, their place in the world. They think the problem is the goal, the business, the relationship. It's not. It's the state they're operating from. A man in a defeated state sees every challenge as a wall. The same man in a peak state sees that wall as a workout. The external world hasn't changed, but his internal chemistry has. When he shifts from fatigue to focus, from doubt to drive, his entire reality reconfigures. Women often feel stuck when their emotional energy is drained, not because they lack direction, but because they're giving from an empty cup. When their state is low, their intuition gets clouded and their sense of purpose dims. But when they reconnect to passion, movement, and self-worth, something awakens inside them that no strategy could ever replace. They begin to attract opportunities instead of chase them. The moment a woman shifts her emotional vibration, her creativity, communication, and confidence expand because she's not just thinking differently, she's feeling differently. Your state is the foundation of your focus. You can't focus on possibility when your body is stuck in survival mode. Most people try to think their way out of stress while their body is still tense, breathing shallow, shoulders tight. Your mind follows your body's lead. If you want to change how you think, you've got to change how you move, how you breathe, how you speak. The fastest way to shift your life is to shift your physiology. Right now, stand taller, breathe deeper, move faster. Your brain reads that physical message and rewires your emotions instantly. Energy is contagious. You've felt it before. The moment you walk into a room where people are alive, laughing, and driven, you can feel it vibrating in your chest. That's the power of collective state. When your energy rises, you don't just lift yourself, you lift the people around you. And when you surround yourself with high energy people, you rise naturally without even realizing it. But when you stay around those who live in constant complaint, fatigue, or fear, your mind starts mirroring that environment. Energy is a choice, but it's also an ecosystem. You must protect it as fiercely as your purpose. Every transformation begins in the invisible space between emotion and action. You don't wait for confidence to appear before taking action. You act your way into confidence. You don't wait for motivation to show up before you move. You move first, and motivation catches up. When you make the decision to master your state, every area of your life begins to accelerate, because the strategy you need, the solution you seek, the path you can't yet seek, they all reveal themselves the moment your energy shifts. Your life is controlled by three forces that determine everything you experience: what you focus on, what meaning you attach to, and what action you take. That's the power triad that shapes every emotion, every result, every level of fulfillment. People who feel stuck aren't lacking talent or opportunity. They're trapped by distorted focus, disempowering meaning, and hesitation to act. If you can master these three forces, you can rewrite any story, reignite any dream, and rebuild momentum faster than you ever thought possible. Focus is the first force, because where focus goes, energy flows. Most people spend their days focusing on what's missing, what's wrong, or what might go wrong. Their brain becomes addicted to problems instead of possibilities. When you constantly focus on the gap instead of the gain, you create emotional paralysis. Men often focus on the scoreboard, on the outcome they haven't reached yet, so they feel like they're losing even when they're growing. Women, on the other hand, often focus on the emotional weight of the journey, feeling every setback deeply, sometimes mistaking temporary difficulty for permanent defeat. Both perspectives drain momentum because focus magnifies whatever it's aimed at. The question isn't whether life is hard, it's whether your focus is feeding your fear or fueling your fire. The second force, meaning, is what transforms experience into emotion. Two people can face the same event, and one sees devastation while the other sees direction. Meaning determines your internal state more than any circumstance ever could. When something painful happens, the mind instantly asks, what does this mean? If your answer is, it means I'm not good enough, or it always happens to me, you reinforce the identity of being stuck. But if your meaning becomes, this is a test, this is training, or this is the moment I rise, then pain becomes purpose. Men often assign meaning through logic. If I can't fix it, it's failure. Women often assign meaning through emotion. If I feel this deeply, it must be defining me. Both can create suffering unless reinterpreted. The power is not in the event, it's in the meaning you attach to it. Action is the third and most visible force, but it's driven entirely by the first two. Once your focus and meaning shift, action becomes inevitable. The problem is, most people wait to feel ready before they move, but readiness never comes. They want certainty before they act, not realizing that certainty is built through action. When you take the first step, no matter how small, you break the inertia that keeps you stuck. Men often suppress action when they fear failure. They hesitate because they equate mistakes with weakness. Women often suppress action when they fear judgment. They hesitate because they equate disapproval with rejection. But both forms of hesitation come from the same illusion, the belief that safety lies in stillness. In truth, movement is the medicine for confusion. These three forces work together in an unbreakable loop. Your focus creates meaning, your meaning fuels emotion, and your emotion drives action. Then your actions reinforce your focus, and the cycle continues. If you focus on what empowers you, give it a meaning that strengthens you, and take consistent action toward what matters, you enter an upward spiral of growth. But if you focus on what's missing, assign it a meaning that weakens you, and hesitate to act, you spiral downward into stagnation. You don't need to rebuild your entire life to get unstuck. You only need to realign these three forces. Change your focus, redefine the meaning, and take one bold action. Your identity starts to evolve in real time because your brain begins to believe what your behavior demonstrates. Every transformation you've ever experienced has followed this pattern, whether you realized it or not. You changed what you paid attention to, you told yourself a new story about what it meant, and you did something different. That's the invisible code behind confidence, success, and fulfillment. The moment you decide to consciously control your focus, your meaning, and your action, you reclaim control over your emotions, your direction, and your destiny. Change doesn't begin with comfort, it begins with disruption. When you feel stuck, it's not because life has stopped giving you opportunities, it's because you've built routines that keep you emotionally numb and mentally asleep. Every day you wake up and repeat the same thoughts, the same reactions, the same choices, expecting to feel different. But the brain doesn't respond to repetition, it responds to stimulation. If you want a new level of life, you have to shock your system. You must break the automatic patterns that keep you locked in predictable cycles and reawaken your nervous system to possibility. The mind is a survival and success machine. Its job is to keep you safe, not fulfilled. That's why it constantly pushes you toward the familiar, even when the familiar hurts. The same arguments, the same excuses, the same emotional ruts, they all exist because your brain finds safety in what it knows. Men often cope with this by retreating into logic or routine. They drown their discomfort in work, distractions, or performance, believing if they just figure it out, the feeling will go away. Women often internalize the loop, emotionally replaying thoughts, conversations, and memories, hoping reflection will bring relief. But reflection without disruption becomes rumination. Both paths lead to the same place, emotional paralysis disguised as productivity. The only way to break the cycle is to interrupt it in real time. You can't overthink your way out of pattern, you have to physically disrupt it. When you feel yourself spiraling into frustration, fear, or doubt, move your body. Change your breathing, raise your voice, stand taller, snap your focus out of the trance. That sudden interruption tells your nervous system, this moment is different. It shocks your brain out of autopilot and brings you back into power. Most people wait for life to shock them, a crisis, a breakup, a loss to finally change, but you can choose to create that disruption intentionally before pain forces it on you. Men often need a physical disruption to wake up, a challenge that demands energy and intensity. It's why breakthroughs often happen in moments of raw emotion, sweat, or struggle. The masculine energy is activated through doing, through stepping into discomfort with movement and decisiveness. Women, on the other hand, often experience transformation through emotional disruption, through speaking truth, releasing suppressed emotion, and reconnecting with intuition. The feminine energy awakens not through force, but through expression and alignment. Both are powerful. Both are necessary. The key is knowing that your breakthrough won't come from thinking. It will come from breaking your current state. Pattern disruption is the reset button for your mind. When you change the rhythm of your thoughts, you give your brain permission to create new associations. Imagine the times when you've been stuck in anger or sadness and someone made you laugh unexpectedly. In that instant, the emotion lost its grip because your state shifted faster than your thoughts could catch up. That's the power of disruption. It cuts the circuit of negativity before it completes. The more you train yourself to interrupt old patterns, the faster you rewire your emotions, your focus, and your behavior. Every person builds habits to avoid pain. The problem is those habits often become prisons. You numb yourself with routine, with screens, with comfort food, with business, thinking it's relief, but it's sedation. To shock the system, you have to face discomfort deliberately. Wake up earlier, take a cold shower, have the hard conversation you've been avoiding, step into the gym when your mind says stay home, speak your truth when your fear says stay quiet. Each act of intentional discomfort strengthens your mental muscles and reminds your subconscious that you are in control. Life rewards those who disrupt their own limits before the world does it for them. The moment you choose to act differently than your pattern demands, you create evidence that you're no longer bound by it. You train your brain to expect more, your heart to feel more, and your body to handle more. And when you live from that place, when you choose disruption over repetition, you stop waiting for change to happen and start embodying it every single day. Every defining moment in your life has come down to one thing: decision. Not chance, not timing, not luck. Decision. The quality of your decisions determines the quality of your destiny. Most people say they've decided, but what they've really done is considered. A true decision means cutting off every other option. It's saying, this is it, I'm all in. That's what it means to burn the boats, to eliminate the path of retreat so the only direction left is forward. When you reach that level of commitment, your mind, body, and spirit align behind one outcome, and suddenly the impossible becomes inevitable. The reason most people feel stuck isn't because they lack opportunity, it's because they keep giving themselves an escape route. They say they want change, but they still keep a back door open to their old habits, their old fears, their old identity. Men often hide behind logic, telling themselves they'll decide when it makes sense. They want certainty before commitment, proof before passion. But life doesn't reward hesitation, it rewards conviction. Women often hold back because they're weighing emotion, how others will feel, what it might cost, whether they're ready to handle it all. But the truth is, you can't build a new life while negotiating with doubt. The moment you decide, really decide, your energy shifts. You move from wishing to creating, from hoping to doing, from someday to now. Burning the boats isn't about recklessness, it's about responsibility. It's about drawing a line in the sand and saying, there's no way back to the old me. When you remove the safety net, you activate a deeper level of resourcefulness you didn't know existed. Your brain stops asking, what if it doesn't work, and starts demanding, how do I make it work? That shift in focus changes everything. When you commit at that level, your creativity expands, your confidence rises, and your nervous system begins to synchronize with your vision. You become dangerous, not to others, but to every limitation that ever tried to hold you back. Men often discover power in decisive action. Their psychology thrives on direction, on movement, on conquest. When they linger too long in indecision, they start to feel powerless, and that lack of clarity eats away at their confidence. The cure is not to think more, it's to decide faster, to commit fully. Once a man reconnects to his instinct and follows through with conviction, his sense of strength returns. He remembers that clarity isn't found, it's created. Women, on the other hand, find their strength in emotional certainty. When they decide from a place of inner alignment rather than fear, their intuition becomes unstoppable. The moment a woman burns her boats emotionally, when she says, I'm done tolerating less than I deserve, the world feels that energy shift. Decisions made from inner truth carry the power to move mountains. Every breakthrough begins with a single irreversible decision. Think about it. Every transformation you've ever made started with a moment of absolute clarity where you said, enough. That moment when you were tired of your own excuses, tired of waiting for permission, tired of feeling trapped. The decision to change wasn't comfortable, but it was clean. No hesitation, no backup plan. That's when your brain stops playing defense and starts playing offense. You start acting as if your future depends on it, because it does. The problem is that most people live in a state of decision fatigue. They keep choosing, unchoosing, and re-choosing the same things over and over again, never committing long enough for the result to manifest. Indecision kills more dreams than failure ever will. When you decide and follow through, you create momentum, and momentum is life. The moment you hesitate, you lose power. The world bends to those who make decisions and back them with relentless action. You can have uncertainty and still move forward. Courage was never the absence of fear. It's deciding that something matters more than fear. When you finally burn the boat, something primal awakens inside you. The mind sharpens. The heart steadies, the body responds. Every cell aligns with your commitment. You no longer fight for your limitations, you fight for your future. You no longer wait for signs, you become the sign. And in that state, when there's no way back and every ounce of you is moving forward, you stop wondering if you'll make it and start realizing you already have. Your life doesn't change when your goals change. It changes when your standards change. Most people wait for external circumstances to shift before they step into their power. They tell themselves, when I have more time, when I have more money, when they finally respect me, then I'll rise. But life doesn't bend to wishful thinking. It responds to your level of demand. The fix isn't out there, it's in you. The moment you raise your standard for what you will no longer tolerate, for what you expect from yourself every single day, the world begins to reorganize itself around your new identity. The difference between the people who stay stuck and those who transform is not talent or luck, it's their threshold for what's acceptable. Most people have goals they hope to reach, but few have standards they refuse to drop below. When your standard is low, you negotiate with mediocrity. You accept fatigue, distraction, and self-doubt as normal. But when you raise your standard, you stop asking, can I do this? And start saying, I must. That shift from interest to commitment changes everything. Men often measure their standards through performance, what they achieve, how they're seen, what they produce. When they feel stuck, it's usually because they've lowered their emotional standards and settled for comfort over challenge. Women often measure their standards through emotional alignment, how they feel, how connected they are, how valued they feel in relationships and purpose. When they feel stuck, it's often because they've accepted patterns that drain their energy instead of fueling it. Both have forgotten that the power to raise the standard lies within, not around them. Raising your standard is an act of self-respect. Saying, I deserve more, and I'm willing to become the person who earns it. It's not about arrogance, it's about alignment. You can't live a high-quality life with low-quality habits. If you want confidence, you can't keep feeding insecurity. If you want peace, you can't keep tolerating chaos. The moment you demand more from yourself than your excuses, you begin to grow. You start acting in ways that match your potential instead of your comfort zone. Every time you choose discipline over distraction, courage over comfort, truth over approval, you are silently rewriting the code of your future. Men and women both need to understand that standards are emotional boundaries as much as behavioral ones. It's not just about what you do, it's about what you allow. For men, this means refusing to let external validation define their self-worth. It means deciding that mental strength and emotional honesty are not contradictions, they're essentials. For women, it means no longer apologizing for wanting more, no longer shrinking to fit expectations that dim their light. It's about demanding authenticity from themselves first and then from the world. The moment you stop tolerating the things that insult your soul, you create space for the things that expand it. The real transformation begins when you stop chasing the quick fix and start raising the foundation. People keep searching for the next book, the next coach, the next system, hoping someone will hand them the missing piece. But no strategy can outgrow a weak standard. You can read every success principle on earth, but if your daily expectations remain average, your results will reflect it. The outer world will always mirror the inner one. Raise your energy, your discipline, your sense of worth, and life starts meeting you at that frequency. Every decision you make is a vote for your standard. When you hit snooze instead of rising early, when you settle for less than respect, when you say it's fine, to something that isn't, you're reinforcing a belief about who you are. But the opposite is also true. When you push one rep further, when you speak truth instead of silence, when you act from integrity even when it's hard, you elevate your identity. You're telling your mind, this is who I am now. And once your brain accepts that new identity, your behavior follows naturally. The fix was never in the job, the partner, or the opportunity. It was in the standard you set for yourself the moment you decided that average was no longer an option.